The room didn't erupt. There was no gasp, no shout, no visible reaction. But make no mistake, within that terrifying silence, Prince Harry's narrative collapsed. What followed the judge's final words was a pause far more unsettling than noise. It was the sound of a courtroom realizing that a royal line had just been crossed, and there would be no stepping back over it. Welcome back to Legacy's Edge. Today, we take you inside the High Court's most dangerous moment. This is not about tabloids or paparazzi. This is about the instant a judge stopped viewing Prince Harry as a sympathetic figure and began assessing him as a witness. The court began to doubt. This wasn't a verdict that landed like a hammer. It arrived like a door quietly closing, sealing Harry's credibility behind it. In that soundless moment, the weight was heavier than any speech could have been. Because when the word perjury enters the frame, even softly, the roles reverse. To understand how everything unraveled, we have to slow this down. Context matters. The shift didn't announce itself dramatically. There was no slammed folder, no heated objection. Instead, it happened subtly, almost politely, the kind of change you only recognize once it's already taken hold. Earlier that day, the courtroom atmosphere had been familiar, heavy, and largely sympathetic. Prince Harry spoke passionately about the misery of living under relentless media scrutiny. He described fear, pressure, and the emotional toll on his wife, Meghan Markle. At one point, his voice reportedly broke as he described the legal battle as horrible for his family. The room made space for that emotion, but courts do not run on emotion. They run on consistency, and that's where the trap was sprung, not by aggression but by a question that sounded routine. The court didn't ask how Harry felt. It asked what he knew. Specifically, when did he first become aware that the information behind the media coverage might have been obtained unlawfully? Harry hesitated. Not long. Not dramatically. Just enough. In that fraction of a second, the entire dynamic flipped. The court stopped listening to a narrative and started examining a structure. Narratives flow. Structures must align. Dates, documents, and sworn statements laid side by side. Harry's answers began to shift. Slightly at first. Then, noticeably. The judge didn't challenge his sincerity. He did something far more dangerous. He mapped the drift. The questions became narrower, more precise. Harry was no longer invited to tell his story. He was required to place it inside a rigid legal framework. As the questions sharpened, Harry's responses grew emotional, frustrated, defensive, tired. Credibility doesn't collapse loudly. It erodes quietly, when certainty turns conditional, and I know becomes I believe. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Emotional strain can make testimony less reliable, not more. Judges are trained to notice this. And the most dangerous phase of the trial had begun. The retrofitting problem. Documents don't get tired. They don't get emotional. Waiting on the judge's bench were Harry's own written witness statements, confident, definitive, unambiguous. In writing, Harry claimed clear knowledge that the press had acted illegally at the time. Under oath, he began to suggest that certainty came later, through hindsight. That gap is fatal. When pressed, Harry tried to bridge it by saying hindsight sharpened earlier impressions. But hindsight is dangerous in court. The judge cut through the explanation with surgical precision. Was Harry describing what he believed then, or what he believes now? Forced into the middle ground, Harry admitted suspicion existed, but certainty did not, directly contradicting his own lawsuit. The judge began anchoring his testimony to documents. Written certainty versus oral evolution. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Then came the mirror. So, what you're saying is, each time Harry agreed with the judge's summary, his explanations hardened into fixed admissions. Piece by piece, he conceded that he did not actually know what he had claimed to know. The narrative was no longer moving forward, it was being pulled backward. The court then pivoted to the past. A relationship Harry had long tried to shield from scrutiny. Chelsea Davy. Not for sentiment, but for consistency. Early articles about that relationship were central to Harry's own case. Harry spoke vividly about the emotional pain those articles caused. But when asked whether, at the time, he believed the information had been obtained unlawfully, he couldn't say yes. He didn't know, and if he didn't know then, how could he swear that he did? This wasn't just a memory lapse. It looked like retrofitting history to fit a lawsuit. Legal observers began whispering a word no witness ever wants associated with their name. Perjury. Harry's strategy. What experts call the memory gamble, collapsed. In the world of memoirs and interviews, emotional truth carries weight. In court, only factual truth survives. The judge noticed the pattern. Harry's memory was precise when it came to pain, but vague when it came to proof. The inconsistencies weren't random. They clustered around legally inconvenient moments. Then the judge used a loaded word. Concerns and legal language. Concerns are a warning. The discrepancies were described as material. That matters. Material inconsistencies strike at the heart of evidence. The judge did not accuse Harry of lying. He didn't need to. He raised the possibility of referral, sending the issue beyond the civil court and into the hands of prosecutors. That single word changed everything. Perjury wasn't shouted. It hovered. Harry remained outwardly composed, but the shift was unmistakable. Narrative protection evaporated. Sympathy no longer shielded him. He had entered court as a victim seeking accountability. He sat there as a witness warned about misleading the crown. The judge left the trigger untouched, but visible. The case paused, suspended in uncertainty. The damage, however, was irreversible, and the consequences don't stop in London. Credibility travels. If a British High Court signals doubt in Harry's truthfulness under oath, that doubt echoes internationally, especially in the United States, where his visa status is already under scrutiny. This is the tragic irony of Prince Harry. In trying to control his story, he lost control of his truth. Feelings may sell books. Facts decide cases. Now the verdict belongs to you. Was Prince Harry a confused man overwhelmed by trauma, or did he knowingly retrofit history to win a lawsuit? Type confused or deceptive. The trial may be paused, but the consequences are just beginning.